do this. I really hate it when call-out channels are like, you said this thing 6 years ago and you should be canceled for it because it doesn't line up with what we understand with science now. What's up, motivators? Welcome back. It's Kevin. This is Pure Bullfit. And today we are doing our first episode of where we air on Twitch and we do Pure Fix It. We take a piece of content, we take a video, a process, a bit of research that people are talking about, and we reinsert the context or the nuance that's necessary to make it actually useful. And today we're going to be talking about a bit of fat loss advice that we get from Ryan Humiston off of YouTube. It's entitled, I Was Dead Wrong About This. And by the end of the video, I feel like he was still kind of dead wrong. But this isn't about attacking Ryan. We don't attack people anymore, we attack ideas. I am still gonna make fun of myself, this industry, and the people that I'm talking about. But given his sense of humor, I think he can take it. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the video. And I am still pretty damn new at this. So I've already screwed it up once. For those of you who are watching on YouTube and not here in the chat, I was talking to an offline stream for 22 minutes while I was trying to do this earlier. This is the second time for me, essentially. All right, here we go.
Turns out I was completely wrong about cardio. And if you do what I'm about to tell you, not only are you going to lose more fat and have better workouts, but you're also going to change your fate. Meaning...
Okay, so I hate guarantee statements. I hate ultimate, I hate perfect programs. I hate guarantees because none of them can do that. If you adopt this modality, there is a chance that you could burn some extra calories, and that'll be clear by the end of it. And that will result in weight loss and metabolic adaptation to get better at using energy and to have higher work capacity. But it, in and of itself, is not magic and will not change your fate. When you have better heart health, you mitigate the risk that you're going to die of a heart attack. You do not eliminate it. So statements like that, right off the bat, I'm not trying to be too picky. They're flamboyant, they are hyperbole, and they are generally not accurate.
That one day your heart's not going to explode after you sit down on the toilet and clench down. And I know, I've said in the past, cardio is a complete waste of time, don't do it. But I'm going to tell you what I told the Albuquerque Fire Department when I got my dick stuck in an apartment jacuzzi jet. Let's not focus on how I got here, the decisions I made in my life that led me to this point. Let's focus on what we're going to do about it.
Okay, all right. So the credit that I will give him is the man is funny as hell. I would not have made that joke online. I love the humor that he has in here, and I wish that it was paired with more specifically substantive information. I would like him a lot better if that was the case. But unfortunately, most of the videos that I've seen of his, only the ones that I've seen, follow this kind of, this pattern. He'll make some really funny statements. He'll vaguely allude to something exercise related or an adaptation, and then he won't be specific enough on the mechanism, or he'll acknowledge, like in this one, he just doesn't understand why it works.
When I first got into working out, I was indoctrinated with that slow, monotonous, steady state cardio. Because I was told the most important thing is to stay in that fat burning zone and not expend too much energy because you don't want to go catabolic and lose those precious gains, but you...
Okay, a couple of things here. One, remember Anakin, only Sith deal with absolutes. Absolutely true. There is a thing to remember here, and he is correct in the fat burning zone does not exist per se. There is a level of effort over time that has our body mobilize more lipids, more fat stores, and it dumps it into our bloodstream, and we have to sustain that effort in order to utilize that energy while it's in there, which means that steady state cardio ideally takes place over a longer period of time. But when you do any exercise endeavor, you use some portion of all the different types of energy that you have. Your phosphates for enervating ATP or energizing ATP, right? ATP goes to ADP, creatine phosphate donates to phosphate, and then it goes back to ATP, and then you have more power. Then you have your glycogen, that's the sugar stores in your muscles, your liver, etc. Then you have your fat stores. They break down and utilize oxygen to be delivered as energy into the cytoplasm, etc. But like everything you do can use all three of those. It's just the extent that they use them.
You end up walking on the treadmill and looking like an asshole because you get lapped by every geriatric person in the gym.
The other thing that I forgot to mention there was your body needs a catabolic state. Stop vilifying catabolism. Anabolism and catabolism they fluctuate throughout the day, right? You need both of them. You need to break down and rebuild. I know that Greg Doucette's cookbook is called the Anabolic Cookbook, but that's kind of a misnomer because processing food is a catabolic process, but you're not going to sell any books if you call it the catabolic cookbook. Nobody's going to want to pick it up. So catabolism has its role. Having excess catabolism compared to anabolism, compared to a building phase, breakdown compared to building, that's a problem. So you can work to the point where you're not recovering, or you're not recovering ideally, and it results in a net loss. You can, but you'd have to work pretty damn hard to do that. So the idea that there's an interference effect between a moderate amount of low intensity steady state cardio and building muscle has been disproven repeatedly.
Gotta be a better way. And then I discovered HIIT. I was pretty ecstatic because for once I felt like I wasn't getting outworked by those old dilapidated balls. But as much as I loved it, it still had some inherent flaws. The first one being you had to have carbohydrates to fuel your high intensity workouts.
Okay, a couple of things here. One, HIIT can be effective, but it does have flaws. One of them is that when most people talk about HIIT training, they actually mean moderate intensity cardio training. Most folks do not take HIIT to the extent that actually makes it high intensity interval training, which is to ramp up your heart rate to near max, sustain it, short rests, and then do it again over a short period of time, compacting a lot of stimulus and work into a very short period of time. Most people do not do it. And he is right when he says you're not going to stick to it, because most folks will find a reason just to abandon. It's hard. It hurts. When you're done with actual HIIT training, you're lying on the floor going, I've just been hit. My trainer hits me. I've been hit by a truck. Any of those analogies, that's how people who have completed legitimately effective HIIT training feel. The other is if you frequently do it, if you are able to be consistent with it, because consistency is what is king or queen, it's 2022, whatever you want. If you are consistent with it, you can actually reach a state where you're suppressing your immune system or lowering your non-exercise activity energy. Your exercise activity accounts for like 5 to 10% of the calories you burn in a day. Not the biggest, it's actually the smallest. The non-exercise activity of dealing with everything else that moves you through space, that requires you to use your body as non-exercise activity. Your body's initial reaction to doing a lot of HIIT training is to lower the amount of energy you have outside of exercise. So the net balance might actually be you're not in a deficit, even if you worked out really hard. If you ended up sleeping, laying on your butt, not doing as much as you normally do throughout the day, not walking around, not taking care of things, you're actually not in a deficit no matter how hard you worked out, and killing yourself on the Stairmaster or doing a Tabata wasn't actually making progress.
And since I don't eat carbs, it seemed kind of ass backwards to
correct.
eat them just to do cardio. The second thing is it's hard to stay consistent because most of the time you're going to think of a really good bullshit reason not to do it that day. And if you do force yourself to do it and do it correctly, it's going to kick your ass and affect the rest of your training.
Absolutely true. 100% agree with him right there. And most people do not have the mental fortitude to consistently engage with it enough where it is effective and it is consistent enough to actually make your body change.
And lastly, my focus was still centered around how many calories I burned that day, and I think that's short-sighted. Because just like at 13, I didn't understand that there's not much blowing going on in a blowjob, so a jacuzzi jet's only going to be fun for about 7 seconds.
Can you imagine? Don't motorboat my kayak. Yeah.
Before I turned my dick into a sock and bopper. I didn't realize there's a way to make your body more efficient at burning fat. And I know you're...
Okay. So he's gonna say something incorrect here in just a second, but I do want to comment on this. In the chat, we've got EPOC, or excess post-oxygen consumption, excess exercise post-oxygen consumption, is pretty lame after HIIT too. A lot of people, like Thomas DeLauer in the past and others, will completely overblow the impact of the afterburn effect of doing HIIT training. Your body incurs an oxygen debt during high-intensity interval training, actual high-intensity interval training, that your body has to burn calories in order to re-reach homeostasis and pay off that oxygen debt created by the exercise over the next 24 to 48 hours. You do burn extra calories, but they act like it's 500, 600, 700 calories for the rest of the day, or that you're a fat-burning machine overnight. No, it's not. It's on average 7 to 14%, 7 to 15% of the calories you burned during the exercise. So the harder you go, the more of that you get over the next 1 to 2 days. Now, that's not to say that it's useless. EPOC is useful. If you went to your job and they said, hey, we're going to pay you 10% of your paycheck for every hour you're not at work, would you say no? Of course you wouldn't. So it is effective, but it's not making a huge difference in your deficit. And if you cannot consistently sustain actual high intensity training, you're not going to get a lot out of it, because the less calories you burn, if you burn 50 calories, you're maybe burning 5 more. You could burn 5 calories going downstairs to go to the bathroom instead of using the upstairs bathroom. 30 calories. You may have 1 potato chip now. You're absolutely right.
You're probably thinking you can't have an effect on your metabolism. That's mostly genetic. It's those lucky bastards that can't put on muscle because they just can't eat enough.
Incorrect. There is a genetic component to our metabolism, but exercise, one of the adaptations of exercise, is conditioning our metabolism, learning to use energy substrates more effectively and using more energy substrates at all. When you change your body composition, you also change your metabolism. When you gain weight, your metabolism has to do more work in order to process the foods to sustain that weight if you're in homeostasis. If you do a lot of work and eat a lot of food, you not only burn calories during the stimulus, but you have to process all of those foods, which is an additional source of calorie consumption. Even though you ate calories, you also burn calories processing food. There is a genetic component. It is one of the smaller components. So I really dislike it when either side of the conversation says that this can't happen or this does happen because of genetics. Fat acceptance communities, people who are struggling with obesity, may latch onto the idea that the genetic component is a bigger influence than it is, because that allows them to justify the state that they're in and buffer the awful things that people say to them when they tell them it's just a choice. People who are fake natties on the internet saying, oh, I just don't put on fat, I'm genetically gifted, so they can hide their PED use, are also just using it as an excuse. Nature and nurture both go into your metabolism and affect your metabolism, but your situational and your activity components are a bigger component than your genetic disposition.
And if that's you, I can collectively speak for us all and say, fuck you. But the truth is, you absolutely can. And the way I do it is 5 to 10 minutes of hell.
Okay, so this is a good point in the video to bring this up. Hemp says, as a beginner, steady state cardio seems way less intimidating than high intensity interval training, and I'll stick with it in an afternoon power walk. That's absolutely correct. It is less intimidating, and it is easier to figure out how you're going to incorporate that into your life. If you're struggling with time, HIIT can be an effective workout. If you have joint pain that's aggravated by repetitive use, HIIT training can be more effective than low intensity steady state cardio. If time is not a factor, you've got all the time in the world, you don't want to absolutely murder yourself doing this, then low intensity steady state cardio is a much better option. At the end of the day, it's what you will do more consistently that makes the bigger difference. Hands down, not genetic component.
The Stairmaster. And that's a very specific time period for a reason, because one, it's going to make you more consistent, because if you can't at least do 5 minutes, you're fucked.
All right, I'm not going to harp on this guy too much. What he's trying to say is that he believes that 5 to 10 minutes of consistent exertion is something that most people can adopt. I will say, yeah, that's probably true. But you have to make those 5 or 10 minutes really, really hard to get something out of it. I can absolutely destroy myself on an assault bike in 3 minutes. I'll burn 50 calories. That's it. But I will be laying on the floor begging for death at that point. Is that worth the trade-off? Particularly if I start my workout with it, I'm going to be dead for the rest of the workout. I'm going to have expended all of my glycogen working as hard as I could, and then I'm not going to have it for the resistance training that should have been the priority, and then do that kind of training afterwards. So is 5 to 10 minutes achievable? Yes. Is it still going to suck? Yes, because if you are not challenging yourself in that short period, you are not getting very much out of it at all.
It also gives you some parameters to work in, because you know you have to at least kick your ass to 5 minutes. So you're going to push yourself to an intensity that barely gets you there. But once you hit that 5 minute mark, it's on. You're going to crank up the intensity so high that you can't make it to 10 minutes. You're going to be face down on the floor, breathing out your ass.
All right, so this can be effective for a small portion of trained individuals, for people who are not at high risk. Is this something that I would suggest to my 71-year-old mother who has struggled with obesity for most of her life and has recently lost 75 pounds? No, that level of exertion would kill her, or my 72-year-old father. It would probably kill them. Right? So this is obviously, and I'm not pretending that he was saying that everybody should do this. I really hate it when call-out channels are like, you said this thing 6 years ago and you should be canceled for it because it doesn't line up with what we understand with science now. I don't buy into all that nonsense. So looking between the lines, what he was trying to say, I firmly believe, was for those who are healthy enough, who do not have complications, who do not have health considerations, you should be taking yourself to the limit. Set that minimum, strive for that 5 minutes, and then make yourself go a little bit farther. Because when your body is truly challenged, that last rep, that last minute, that last mile, that's where a lot of progress is made. If you're doing 100 push-ups, maybe no progress was made in your first 10 push-ups. I promise you more progress. I can't quantify specifically how much, but more progress is made when you're closer to fatigue. 97, 98, 99 are more impactful than 1, 2, and 3. Fat loss in theory is easy. Calories in, calories out, but many people underestimate the calories in. Some people have a very hard time for a variety of reasons with the calories out part. That is a great comment, and not all of it is their fault. If you use a calorie tracker to determine how many calories you've burned. I've been saying this for years. Stanford study 2015, they measured the accuracy of caloric burn devices that were tracking how many calories that you burned. The most accurate was overestimating by 27%. The least accurate was overestimating by 93%. So if you're eating those calories back, or even some of those calories back, thinking that you have that room in your diet because your little machine told you so, you're wrong, you were overeating, you didn't lose weight, you got dispirited, you got discouraged, you quit doing it, and it wasn't your damn fault. It was the fault of the individuals who put these products out there, who claimed they were more efficacious than they actually were. Not being educated enough? Sure, maybe that's your fault. But not everybody has the time or the inclination to dig deep in to find out if these things are effective. They just take the marketing at face value and hope. Okay, this is a good face. If you want to measure whether or not you have really tried, whether it's 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, your face should look something like that. Maybe without the fantastic beard, but it should be a struggle. It should be a struggle enough that it registers on your face. That's how difficult even just moderate intensity cardio training should leave you feeling, let alone high intensity. Yep.
And I think most importantly, it changes your mindset about cardio because let's face it, we're all a little fucked up. So if we can gamify it and make it something where we're fighting for our lives, we're going to be more apt to do it. Again, the way...
There is a certain group of people that appeals to, but I will tell you this, you can find mental resilience, mental fortitude in challenging yourself. There's a couple of things that we had to do in the military because Major Riley, our company commander at MCSB, Company H, made us do to instill in us not physical fitness, to instill mental resilience. There was one obstacle course that we ended up doing, and then immediately after it, we had to carry somebody within 10 pounds of our own weight on our back, fireman's carry, without putting them down, and jog the entire mile track. It was a dirt track. If we put them down, you started over. Now, I took a knee a couple of times, but I never let that guy off my shoulders. And I finished it, and it took a really long time. I think it was like a 24-minute mile, right? It was very difficult. But when I'm going through something tough, all I have to do is look back at that and go, that was way harder. I got this. So doing things like Murph, doing intense physical challenges can teach us mental resilience. That's absolutely true. Embracing this kind of like fight for your life mentality while you're exercising, I take a step back from that. It's a lesson to be learned, not an effective exercise modality or mentality. Because if you're constantly just spending yourself, spending your body over and over again, and you're not recovering, all you're doing is slowly damaging it or quickly damaging it, depending on how rough you're going on yourself. So that particular statement, I'm not 100% on board with. There is a nugget of wisdom to take from that, and that is that you can learn mental resilience from truly challenging yourself Is this the best way to do it at the end of every single one of your exercise sessions? No, I disagree.
What you're going to do it is start at a pace that makes you uncomfortable and a little bit nervous on whether or not you can actually make it to 5 minutes. And once you get to 5 minutes, crank up the intensity every 15, 20 seconds. And I don't care if you hang on for dear life. Just keep going. And I'll be honest with you, I have no idea why this works so well.
See, that's the thing. I know he doesn't understand why it works. And that's why I have a problem with folks who, in my opinion, resort to exogenous substances, whether got by a doctor or something else, who give advice on the internet on how to get healthy, is that they could throw a horseshoe in the general direction of progress and make some and not understand it. So when you're evaluating whether or not somebody is a good source of information, and I am not done evaluating whether or not he is a good source of information, I haven't seen enough of his videos. But I will say, from this video and the few others that I've seen, it's not looking great. It's not. I'm not trashing on the guy. He's still a step or two above the V-Shreds and the folks like that are out there. Take a look at the information that they give. Take a look at the success that they have achieved. If they are low on knowledge, low on understanding, high on success, high on results, it wasn't what they know that got them there. It wasn't their information that ended up in the results. And as we've discussed a few moments ago, genetics only play a small portion. They separate the 98th percentile from the 100th percentile. Not much more.
In terms of fat loss, it's obviously not slow, steady state cardio. It's not high intensity because we're not doing intervals here. It's just one all-out horrible sprint for 5.
Right there. I don't know if you can see it on your screen, but on my screen it says after every workout. That's where we need to stop and pause. We cannot recommend going as hard as you possibly can at the end of every workout. But if you were to go challenge yourself at the end of every workout, which I do support, the way that it works is that consistent and additional activity will net an additional caloric burn that wasn't there before, and that will result in weight loss. This is not a mystery. This wasn't even a hard one to figure out. It isn't that the specific modality, high intensity training after your workout, is magically effective or does something magic. It is that you are increasing total activity with the time that you have, and this is a way that you can do it that does not drastically impact your exercise time, the time you have to spend at the gym. But there is a consideration that you must take into effect. We talked about NEAT towards the beginning of this discussion. If you do that and you find yourself sitting on your butt, doing nothing, lounging around, doing less than you did, not going for a walk, not taking care of the groceries, resting more than you did before, that's your body making those calories back. And you won't get a hell of a lot out of this except for resenting whatever machine you choose to abuse yourself with after every single workout.
If you suck, or 10 if you've half-assed it, somewhere around 8, and then you throw up in your mouth. Could have something to do with the fact that if you wanted to increase your VO2 max, this is exactly how you would train. And while that doesn't help you burn more calories, it helps you work harder, which in turn allows you to burn more calories. Or the simple...
Okay, so the metabolic adaptation that he earlier in the video said doesn't happen is using energy better. That is a secondary benefit. You'll be able to work harder in your sessions, therefore you'll get more out of them. But it is the activity that you were just doing. It is the thing that you were just doing, moving through space, challenging your body, requiring energy, that created more of a deficit. It's that simple. You moved more, so you lose more if your energy intake stays the same.
Simple fact of the majority of the way you shed fat is through carbon dioxide, and I don't know about you, but I haven't been that out of breath since high school football, 4 touchdowns.
Also, kind of true, you expel the waste material from utilizing fat stores in your body. The lipids are mobilized, then they're utilized, and then you breathe out the waste material, which is gross. And it's why stress breath, in my opinion, it's why I imagine, since you're processing fat all night long, that your mouth tastes and smells so bad, or at least one of the reasons that it tastes and smells so bad. I'm not an oral doctor. This is just what I have thought. But I would never say I'd never go on YouTube and say, if you want to have better breath, don't lose weight, because your bad breath comes from the fact that you breathe out fat waste overnight. I wouldn't present that as an option just because the things are related. Just like I wouldn't say the reason that you burn more fat is because an adaptation to you doing HIIT training is VO2. And that with an alpha mentality or a sigma mentality or whatever is popular these days, that you'll burn more fat because you're willing to face death in order to get through your workout. Those things might be loosely related, but they are not the cause. They are not the effect. They are not the mechanism of action. That was very
Sounds in a
complicated.
single game. But whatever the case, this was an absolute game changer for me and has been because I've gotten leaner, I feel better, and the good news is I don't worry about dying every time I go take a shit now. And because of that, I wanted to share this with you. Not because I'm a nice guy, it's because you guys are looking a little chubby.
That was a cheap shot on the way out. But yeah, so that's Ryan Humiston. That is his take on fat loss. Now, what can we take from that? We can take from that if you increase your total activity, you're going to lose more weight. If you find a way that you can do that in a short time that is sustainable, that you can consistently do over time, then you're going to achieve success. It is not magic. It is not particularly complicated. And while folks out there will say that there's a competing effect or it's flawed or they'll raise concerns, consider the concerns. As with everything, it's about dosage. Exercise up to a point is medicine. Past that point, it's poison. Without recovery, training is just damage. So you have to balance all of these things. Get enough food. Do so in a manner that is sustainable. Create a deficit that's tolerable and manageable. If you burn an additional 500 calories over the course of 3 days because you're doing this as hard as you possibly can, you're going to be very hungry. If that's on top of your workout, if you're not making adjustments for how much food you're intaking, you might not be able to take that amount of hunger. So that's where we're at with it. You can utilize something like this, but you have to evaluate it to see if it fits well with what you're doing. You have to make that determination for yourself. Oof, that was somebody's tires. You have to make that determination for yourself, and you have to carefully implement these things. Do not take what is said at face value, particularly when it is given to you with so little information, so little context, and without a proper understanding of why it's working in the first place. All right, guys. So for my YouTube audience, thank you for joining us. If you want to join us here live on the channel, have this discussion with us, make me do exercises. When we do the Q&A, when I make affiliate, which is going to be very soon here now, watch me try and eat this chip and talk to you at the same time. Consider joining us on Twitch. It's just /Pure Bullfit over on Twitch. If you liked this video, go ahead and like the video. If you didn't like the video, they got a button for that too. Either way, let me know about it in the comment section. But until I see you again, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and go fit yourself.